For decades, we've been told that college is the golden ticket to success. But what if we've been sold a dream that doesn't match reality? Today, we're diving into the debate of college versus trade school. Are we pushing the wrong path to success? In the United States, the college for all mantra has shaped an entire generation. High school students are encouraged, almost pressured, to pursue a 4 year degree. But what happens when everyone follows the same path? If everyone follows the same path to anything, the tragedy of the commons happens. Everywhere that people have direct access to becomes trashed and loses value. And we've seen this when you go to an outdoor area that's very close to the parking lot, the entire picnic area or seating area starts turning a color of black that's just nasty. The same thing can happen with oversaturated markets with people with the same things. Because, at least in my college experience, the most popular majors were communication, journalism, and probably psychology, I think was a close three. And so you have all of these people out here in the market looking for jobs with the same degree, same skills, went to the same schools, got taught by the same people, and they're the easiest degrees to get. So people naturally gravitate towards the path of least resistance. Because I know this from spending 20 years at the university that no one is cut out for a job that is extremely stressful. This is something that I found out really badly in my current position, where the level of stress of everyone is just making them insane. So when you go to school, like myself, I didn't want a major that was going to stress me out. I wasn't interested in a STEM degree. I didn't want science. I didn't want technology. I didn't want engineering. And I didn't want math. Because all of those degrees are degrees that require a lot of focus, a lot of studying. You either have to be very naturally gifted in those areas, or you're going to struggle and end up sitting in a classroom next to me as an English major, because that's where you go when you can't make it in the more lucrative areas of the university. And of course, people are left with the losing lottery ticket. When the university realizes that you're not going to make it as an engineering student, they don't want to lose your business, because remember, at a university, you're a customer, not a student. And this is what I've told people my entire life, whether it's a trade school or a university, any place that sells education, you're a customer first. They want to milk you for every single dollar they can. And that's why we've seen college tuition spiral out of control. Back when our parents were going to school, you could work part time and go to community college. That's not possible anymore. You have to take out loans. And that's where they want to force you to see value in the product that they're selling, even though the customers of their product aren't as successful as they claim they're going to be. All right, talking point number two. College enrollment has skyrocketed over the past few decades, but with that growth comes a staggering 1.7 trillion in student debt. Meanwhile, nearly half of all graduates end up in the jobs that don't require a degree. So are we really setting up our kids for success? I don't think so. I think the uneducated that make more money are going to make fun of us for the rest of our lives. I don't know how many times I've been called a college boy because I'm working in a job where obviously I don't sound like the other people around me. And that was really hard to do, because after I got out of the university, my first job was working in retail at Walmart, and everyone sounded like they were from the bad part of town. And I remember thinking towards the end of my retail careers that even my own speech, my thoughts, the way that they made me feel about being a total failure after college, it kept weakening my self esteem. None of them we're trying to find better jobs. And that's something that I noticed in every low level job where you have uneducated people is they sort of start thinking like poor people. There's no point in trying to find something else because this is the best that I can do. It's going to be this or another minimum wage or another job that pays between $15 and $20 an hour, and they will never be able to escape that bracket. And I never had that mentality, regardless of how many times I was belittled in the workplace for being an educated person. I never let it get to me. I just thought to myself, that's a person that's going to be working at Walmart for the rest of their lives. In fact, I just left Kroger's. And there was a guy that I honked at in the parking lot because he's worked there since he was in high school. He did try to go to community college. He did try other ways of educating himself. He went to a trade school, dropped out because he didn't like it. And that's just the way that a lot of people end up coping with life. And for the people that do make it through their university education and still have to apply for low level jobs, this is something I tell people all the time. Don't put your education on the resume. Because when you put your education on the resume, what you're saying to the hiring manager is, I'm better than this job, and therefore I'm looking for another job. And hiring people don't want people that have options. If you're working at McDonald's, they don't want you also looking for jobs that aren't McDonald's. They want you to stay there so that they can use you for the 3 months that you're going to stay, putting the fries in the Happy Meal. That's what they need you to do. They need people. Remember, as I forget where this quote's from, we need a nation of workers, not thinkers. We need people who are going to put their heads down and realize this is the best that I'm going to get. But on top of that, you've got people like myself who come out of this college system that are buried in educational debt. And there's nothing we can do to get rid of it. So in my belief, set up to fail is the way that our society is functioning right now. And as another point that I wanted to make is that most college students that are there now don't need to be there. If you're going to end up working in retail, warehouse, any low level job, why waste your time and energy in a major that's not going to pay off? Why? Because we live in a world in which you're constantly being told, and I remember hearing this all the way back into elementary school, don't be a loser that doesn't get good grades. And it scared me all the way up until I got to seventh grade when I realized, you know what? I don't have to go to school. And I dropped out of school because somehow, even back then, I had this feeling that the working world wasn't what it was being told it was. The American dream wasn't quite the reality that we saw on TV with shows that had people growing up in stable homes with a father and mother, and the father worked and the mother was Susie Homemaker. That seemed hollow to me all the way up until that point. All right, talking point number 3. On the flip side, trade schools and vocational programs offer a different path, one that's often overlooked. These programs train students for high demand jobs in fields like electrical work, plumbing, carpentry, and more. And the best part, many of these jobs pay just as much, if not more, than traditional white collar careers. That is a blatant lie from an AI that obviously has never worked in this world. Anyone that tells you that this is true is lying to you. And the biggest liar out there for this type of, I don't even call it propaganda, is Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe's a con man. He's a wealthy man that made that show Dirty Jobs to try and trick people into going into these low paying jobs. If you go into plumbing or electrical work right out of your trade school, you're going to be making the minimum wage, working long hours for your first 3 to 5 years. And that's not something I read. That's something I see in the comments section. I've been seeing that in the comments section of my videos for years now. And I had this grumpy old man who's like 80 years old told me one time that they tried to put four students, his company put four students through carpentry school, and that all four got out of school, went to work, and each one dropped out 1 week after another. Each dropped out because the work was so hard, the pay was so low, and they weren't treated very well. And so these people are like, you know what? We went to school for something that we're going to have to wait for in order to make money if we make it there someday. So you've got to have the patience to wait it out because remember, as I mentioned in every one of my videos, entry level is for all jobs. If you're going to be an entry level electrical worker, plumbing worker, carpentry worker, whatever you are, when you're entry level, they're not going to pay you much. And that's as a world that's become entirely entry level, those people at the bottom are going to suffer the most because no one wants to hire entry level people. Entry level positions, as I talked about in a video just a couple of days ago, entry level really doesn't exist anymore. They either want you having an internship, they want you to have a family member, they want you to go get that experience somewhere else. Even my current job, when they hire people, they don't want to have to train you for things like adaptability. They want you to be able to come into the workplace and resolve your problems. You need to be able to move around in your position and be able to, how do I put this? So, my Gen Z the other day, about 3 days ago, he comes in and he starts doing, he works technically a little bit of technology in his job. And he comes up to me and he says, Millennial Steam, this isn't working. And I look at him and I think, okay, entry level. I look over at his computer and it's not even plugged in. He's trying to do something with the computer and it's not plugged into the wall. Again, those are the kind, and that's one of the lowest level mistakes. But something like that is what they want to avoid when they hire someone as entry level. Does this person know how to use a printer? Do they know how to use Microsoft Office? Can they set up a basic system and set it up with certain preferences? Can they do all of these entry level things? You don't want to have to sit there with them and show them how to do entry level things. Even soft skills at an entry level are very, very difficult to train because either they have them or they don't. When I worked at the call center, they made us watch 8 hours of the way that we were supposed to behave in the workplace. When I worked at Walmart, it was the same thing. When I started working at Kroger's, back then they still sent people to behavioral classes so that you acted in the way that the corporation wanted you to, and that was just part of the job. And it sucks because you don't want to. I don't know. When I was watching the training videos for Walmart, the amount of advice that they wanted us to give to the customers, like there's one question in the computer-based training about showing the customer how to catch fish in a certain area by gathering information from either other customers or coworkers. I thought that was ridiculous that they put that into the training. But it was also with food. So success in the trade still requires work, and I'm just transitioning into this because I added my own talking points here, but this is something I see at my current job with the students there. Most low level students don't understand that even trade schools require you to put in work. A lot of the students that come there expect to come in and not have to work at a trade school. They think, well, anyone can do a trade school because that's why we didn't go to a university, is because we wanted to go to a school that was more on our level, meaning extremely low, I'm not going to say intelligence, just not gifted students, right? they struggle with the basics. And so you have to take these students and still get them to meet state required qualifications. And many of them start programs in trade schools and realize that it's too hard for them, or they have to work too much. That's a huge problem with your lower tier employees. I had to work 40 hours while I went to school for over 10 years, and that's why my grades weren't that great. Work, despite spending tens of thousands of dollars on my education, my work was what paid the rent and what put food on the table. School always took, it was always second. It was never the first thing I had to concentrate on. And I see this in these trade school students is that they're going to school, but they can't afford to be there. I don't know how many students stop going to school because something happened. Something in their life changed drastically in their financial situation, and they couldn't come back to finish their trade school education. They had to go to work. They had to go right back to where they were working before they decided to go back to school. So they had to go back to McDonald's. They had to go back to that Amazon warehouse, or they had to go back to that restaurant where they were trying to escape, but the escape wasn't going to be easy. And the great thing about all of these people that leave their trade schools and have to go back to their low level jobs is that the loans that they took out, that some academic advisor told them that they would easily be able to pay them off with this so-called trade school education, those loans are still there. However much money you took out from the Department of Education will still be there and will haunt you for the rest of your life. All right, so I had two other talking points, but I didn't realize the video had gone all the way up to 16 and a half minutes already. So I've decided to cut those two talking points out. I'm going to read them out, but I'm not going to add any of my personal narrative to this. Many college grads find themselves underemployed, working in jobs that don't require a degree, with little hope of paying off their student loans anytime soon. Meanwhile, the demand for skilled tradespeople continues to grow. I disagree with this AI created talking point, because the the only thing that continues to grow out there is the people that are making money by providing trade schools. I saw this in a comment the other day, is that during the gold rush in America, anywhere where they found gold in America, the people who got rich were the people who were selling those gold miners equipment. Same thing with the education system. There's all these for-profit schools out there, and they're the ones that are benefiting the most by providing mediocre, very expensive education to people that are looking for gold in the wrong places. The trades are not a place that you're just going to strike it rich. Sure, there are some people, like there's a weekly lottery winner somewhere. But most people that play the education lottery fail. So, in my opinion, it needs to stop being sold as a sure thing, because it's not. And making people believe that it's that golden ticket is a lie. And I personally think it's almost to the level where someone needs to look at the amount of money that these corporate education systems are stealing from people. Because just like with the miners that thought that, you know what, it's my day, I'm gonna keep digging until I find the gold. It doesn't matter how much you dig in education. Sometimes there isn't going to be any gold on your claim. And the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to give up digging and go back to your crap job and move back to where you came from. And that happens to a lot of people that drop out of university, is that they finally realize, I'm not going to be able to do this major because I'm not smart enough, or I don't have enough money, or something else comes up and they have to give up that pursuit. Or sometimes they make it to the end of the degree, but still no gold. They're still working entry level jobs. I consider myself that person. I have or excuse me, I have four worthless liberal arts degrees that I've never been able to use in order to make any money whatsoever. Do I feel like I got ripped off? Yes. Would I be back at the returns department at the university right now if I thought I could get one thin dime back from them? I absolutely would be. But there's no taking it back. They can't suck out whatever knowledge they gave you, but I didn't receive anything, in my opinion, that was setting me up to be successful in my life. I just bought into a system that, in a sense, it robbed me. It bait and switched me. I thought that, from what I understood about higher education, there's something about being an educated man that you don't get from working a low level job. And that was enough to keep me going and going and going. And once I finally finished school, once I was completely done, the the outcome was pretty poor. All right, so what did I put into toxic positivity? So the low pay, no time off, and I'm starting to see a lot more people with the disease of poverty that are acknowledging the fact that this isn't going anywhere for them. In fact, I saw it from the lowest academic person today at work to a coworker today, this afternoon, who was ranting about how much it sucked to suck with all of the amount of energy that he puts into his job, only to come out at the end of the week with nothing to show for it. And I I'm seeing it from top to bottom. More and more people are aggravated by work. And I don't know if this is because, of course, we all live in our, mini bubble of the people we see every day, the people we talk to, even the news outlets that we go to. But I've noticed this growing trend of people being extremely angry and upset with the workplace. And I don't know how feel about that when when a grown man, when a man that's in his mid 40s is on the phone with you, cursing and cussing about how much this job sucks. You have to just kind of scratch your head and think to yourself, there's nothing better. There's nothing out there that's better. In fact, if I were to leave my current job, I would probably have to go to a retail job just because the the good jobs, and I've said this in hundreds of videos, there are no real good jobs out there. All there is trash. And we move around, we toss and turn and wiggle around in the trash, and that's what we do. We're not getting ahead. We're not doing better. Nothing is getting better for us. We're just rolling around in the trash and telling ourselves we're not trashy people. But at the end of the day, you've got a big L on your forehead. And that L, in my opinion, gets bigger and bigger every day to the point where there's going to be so many losers that people aren't going to be able to pick up their heads because their L is going to be so large.